Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. Bright in orange today, Mr. Gunratna. So let's talk about the Lanka Mineral Sands Limited, which you are the competent authority of. Now, when you started off today's show, when I posed you a question about the split within the government, you said there were issues at Lanka Mineral Sands Limited, and that is why the president appointed you to this company, which is handled by the government, which is coming under the purview of Mr. Ishaq Badurin as the competent authority. Tell me a little bit about the corruption that is happening at Lanka Mineral Sands Limited.
That is a company which I would say for the last maybe 20 years has been run down, and the potential is about 15 to 20 million, 15 to 20 billion profit. It's a profit-making company. If you run it properly, the profit you can make there is about 15 to 20 billion. Now, if you take the past, this company has been able, with all the inefficiencies and the deficiencies in whatever has been happening, it has been able to give about 500 million, sometimes 1 billion rupees to the treasury. But during the past few years, that has slowly diminished.
Why is that?
Because one thing is because various administrations have not concentrated on the production. They have completely neglected the production, and if I may say, for 40 years, the machinery has not been updated for 40 years. So you can just imagine the machinery presently needs immediate updating, or we need to get in new machinery, new efficient machinery, which will extract the sand, extract the minerals from the sand, and then that can be sold in the open market. Now, due to the inefficiency of the machinery, what is happening is our quality is also dropping, and the price we can get in the world market is also coming down. Now, whilst this is going on, there is another school of thought saying, okay, we have to do value addition. Now, the COP is saying you have to do value addition. The GSMB is saying you have to do value addition. The Coast Conservation Department is also saying you have to do value addition. Yes, we have to do value addition. But how can you do value addition when our extraction of the mineral itself is not 100% efficient? So the first stage now, which I have been asked to somehow accomplish, is to do the proper extraction within this first year, to see that the extraction is 100% successful, and then thereafter go in for valuation.
So, as the competent authority, you have a clear vision for Lanka Mineral Sands Limited.
Definitely.
How sure are you that you would last in this position?
That is after this show, I don't know whether I will last, but anyway, I am fighting to last.
Because the last time you came on the show, in a few weeks' time, you were not the chairman of Lanka Coal anymore.
Thanks to Sirsa.
Are you disappointed the way in which things have worked out, Mr. Gunratna? In particular, let's take your career as an example. You were celebrated Southern Provincial Council of the United National Party. Then you were thrown out of the party. You protested against the party. You stood against the leadership of the party, and then you joined President Maithripala Sirisena to fight corruption, to fight nepotism, and you stood with the president. The president appointed you as the chairman of Lanka Coal. You were removed again from that position, and now you are the competent authority. I don't know exactly whether there is even a position like that, but they probably created one for you as the competent authority of Lanka Mineral Sands Limited. Are you not disappointed? Your journey?
No, I am not disappointed. One thing is,
you don't even have a party now.
No. That's all that is fine. All that is fine. No, the main thing, Samir, in this whole issue is, we fought against the United National Party. We fought against Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe for the simple reason that he was not fighting that regime at that time. So at that time when we fought Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, we saw it was amply clear that he was fully backed by the former regime. He was supported, he was nurtured by the former regime. So if we were not fighting the leader of the opposition, whilst fighting the leader of the opposition in the background, there was the government who was protecting the leader of the opposition. So our fight, we have fought and we have been able to make these changes. I don't claim that we made all the changes, but we were instrumental in bringing about this change. So that satisfaction we have.
But isn't it an irony that you are fighting the same man again when he is the Prime Minister?
Yeah, but that is a part of politics.
That's part and parcel of politics?
Oh, that's part and parcel of politics. You will have to keep on fighting them till we can change this system somehow. And I feel if you give up and go, the winner never quits, the quitter never wins.
Now
so you need to fight. You need to fight.
Mr. Maitri Gunaratne, you are an attorney at law, and I know that you are using your words very carefully. When you said that the former leader of the opposition, that is Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, was backed by the former regime, you were very serious about it.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I will tell you one example.
No, I don't want examples, I just want your word. So, who is he being backed now? Who is supporting him now? Now he is in power. He is the Prime Minister of the country.
Yeah.
Whose ideas or ideologies is he trying to implement now?
I wonder whether there are any ideologies for him to implement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maitri Gunaratne, for your thoughts. Thank you very much for joining us this evening on the show. It's always nice to have you on board. As I said, in 3 months' time, I am going to interview you again on this very show, and I'm going to ask you what concrete steps have the authorities unearthed in terms of Lanka coal. So you can wait for that for sure. I now move my attention to Mr. Rusiripala Tennakon, who is who has been very vocal on the bond scam. Mr. Tennakon, my question to you is with regard to the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, which has been appointed by the President. Now, the chairman of this committee in question is Supreme Court Judge K.T. Chitrasiri. Now, he, late last month, which is on the 21st of March, he said that nobody will be found guilty by the commission, and the role of the commission is only to find facts. Now, this raises the question, if you're not going to find someone guilty, why even waste time on such proceedings? Well, we saw similar things happening, because we saw just after the bond scam, the Prime Minister appointing a committee. And this committee's recommendations were not taken into account. And again, isn't it something similar? Is it? Mr. I'll come to you in a minute. I'll come to you in a minute. I want Mr. Tendakon's views.
No, it is a little.
When it comes to UNP, Mr. Gunaratne is very, very vocal.
I know. I mean, it's
yes.
The committee which was appointed first.
Mr. Tendakon, yes. We will come back to you in a minute.
That was a joke.
This, the appointment of the commission and the statement made by the president of the commission, these are actually things that concern us very much. I also fully agree with you, because we expected, due to the passage of time, due to the time this thing has taken, and due to the events that have taken place prior to the appointment of the commission, we expected some finality in this thing, and some kind of a conclusive step to be taken. But it appears that the legal process is such that a commission of this nature is not a punitive commission as such. So what has become necessary today is, after going through all the stages that it has gone through before, like the COPE committee, like the three UNP UNP lawyers committee, followed by the first COPE committee, which was sabotaged by the dissolution of parliament, then the second COPE committee, the report of which was submitted to the Attorney General before the Speaker took a decision about it, and then finally the parliament had a debate about it. The whole thing appeared to be a political exercise. You know, the way how it was debated, the way how the COPE conducted itself, how the evidence was led, the type of objections that were raised at the second COPE committee, all this appeared to be a bit of a political exercise. But now, in this context, the President felt rightly that an independent commission, an apolitical body, has to be appointed to at least investigate into the matter and bring out the facts in an authentic manner, in an apolitical manner. I think that is the exercise that is being done right now.
Correct, that's right.
Isn't this the same format that was done at the COPE committee?
No. There's a big difference. There's a big difference. If you analyze the evidence, the manner in which that COPE committee conducted its inquiry, you know, the COPE, the members of the COPE itself could intervene and object and sort of bring about objections and then disrupt the thing. It has happened several times. The witnesses were not allowed to express freely, and some of the witnesses had to give evidence at a time when the governor, the main accused person, was holding forth as the governor of the central bank. They were scared to give evidence.
That's true.
Some did not want to come out with the truth. After all, they are all human beings. They are worried about their jobs. So they had reasons to curtail and then control themselves and then limit themselves in making statements. So that is not happening in the COPE committee, in the Presidential Commission.
So
it
what is going to really happen?
Huh?
What is going to really happen, Mr. Thannakoon?
No, certainly, most certainly.
By the end of this month, we have to see a finality with regard to the
I heard somebody
saying
that further extension of time will be given to the Commission because, you know, the April holidays are now coming.
Correct.
At least the people will have to take their holidays, and that's a normal thing. And then these the commissioners will have to formulate their reports, study the evidence carefully. So all this will take time.
So will this report be handed over to the Attorney General's department?
No.
The President.
It will be handed over to the President.
And the President has the ultimate decision to take action with regard to the report in question.
The terms of reference and the mandate that is given to the Commission is very clear in the Gazette notification. If you read through that, it gives very clearly what the terms of references are and what the mandate is.
Okay, now my question again, my initial question. If nobody will be found guilty, what sort of action will be taken?
No, it is not a question of finding guilty or making a person guilty. If it is a fact-finding thing, they will exactly state as to how and what has happened.
And
that is what we want to know.
Who is responsible and what action can be taken. So once the report has been given, then anyone going through the report will say that there is whether there is a criminal action or whether there is a civil action.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Just one word, rising out of what Mr. Gunaratna said.
Mr. Gunaratna is interpreting what you want to say, or is he trying to intervene?
No. He said something very important, you know. He said that there is a necessity to determine whether it is a criminal thing or a civil thing. Now, if you remember, if you recall the events prior to the appointment of the Commission, the President made a public statement stating that, to the effect that he has got information that the Attorney General has referred to the matter as a civil issue.
Thank you very much.
And he was not satisfied with it. So that is a very important aspect in this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rishabal Thannakoon. Very quickly, a yes or a no. If you are asked to appear before the Commission of Inquiry, you wrote a book. Would you appear?
Most certainly, and I will also.
Mr. Thannakoon, just a yes or a no. You would certainly appear before the Commission. Thank you very much.
I would love to do that. I would love to do that because I feel that it is not only Arjuna Mahendran who is at fault in this.
Thank you very much.
That is the part that I want to bring out if ever I am called up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thannakoon, for your thoughts. And now to Mr. Kesara Gunasekara, former Member of Parliament of the United People's Freedom Alliance. Mr. Gunasekara, are you happy that you are not in Parliament? given what has been happening in Sri Lanka over the last
I can't
few
say
months.
I'm happy.
What changes would you do if you were in Parliament?
Well,
It's a very hypothetical question, I know, Mr. Gunasekara, but I just want to know your thoughts.
Well, I would have been fighting the system.
Fighting who? Mr. Gunrat, I'll come back to you. Who would you be fighting? Are you going to fight the President,
What is
or are you
wrong?
going to fight the Prime Minister?
What is wrong?
So whoever...
What is wrong? That's all.
So you'd
What
be
matters
fighting...
to me is what is right and what is wrong.
So you mean to say that even if you were elected as the member of the United People's Freedom Alliance, you would stand independent in Parliament?
Pardon?
You would stand independent or sit independent
I
in
didn't
Parliament?
say I would stand independent.
So how are you going to fight the system?
You have to fight the system, that's your duty.
How would you do it?
When you enter Parliament, you need to understand that's your duty. Mind you, party comes last.
Now
It's
you
a
have
duty
members.
to the country.
You have members of the joint opposition also thinking just like you, maybe, on certain fronts, like the bond scam. They come out, they voice their concerns, and most of the time they cross the line and then they are pushed out, thrown out of Parliament. Let's not go there, but most of them also cry in Parliament and say, okay, this is not right, that is not right. And how would you think that your role in Parliament would be significant, if that is the case?
No, the
as an
question is,
individual?
if you're referring to the present group that calls themselves the joint opposition, from day one, they have been in the opposition. When technically they are part of the government, because the party has decided that they are going to join hands with the United National Party to form a government. So they are technically members of the government. They cannot be in the opposition.
But they have a separate May Day rally that is going to be held at Golface,
Anybody
which
can
has
do
been
anything.
given the green light
What
by
can't
the
they
Prime
do?
Minister
They
himself.
can do anything. I mean, you can do anything you want.
And then you call
It's not.
and
it's
you
not
call them
difficult.
part of the government.
Pardon?
And then you call them part of the government.
No, as far as I'm concerned, I say that they are still part of the government because they got elected through UPFA, and UPFA is part of the government.
Do you
Simple
think?
as that.
Do you think these certain members of the joint opposition, not everyone, can stand alone if they contest a election?
I don't think it's correct for me to comment on that.
Let's talk about. Let's talk about a little bit more precisely.
I'm becoming personal then.
Let's talk a little bit more precisely. We saw former Minister Parliamentarian Vimala Veeravansa staging a fast on to death campaign again. This is not the first time that he has done it, for sure. And he's very successful. He always gets his way. And what is the Parliament doing about it? What is the present administration doing about it?
Well, as to whether he has been successful, you said he is successful, but I don't. As far as I'm concerned, it's not so. But he has been up to antics right throughout. It's left for, in fact, I have mentioned this earlier. I think the speaker should have been much more firmer right from the inception. Should have been much more firmer.
There is now talk about a cabinet reshuffle after the April holidays. Do you think that this is going to further upset those in power?
Well, let me put it this way. I can still remember former President Mr. J.R. Jayawardena mentioning to a member in the cabinet that it is always easy to appoint the cabinet on the first occasion, but no sooner you want to change and go for a reshuffle, then in that case you will always face problems. So the appointment at the first instance is easy, but when you want to change, it becomes difficult. But certainly if changes needs to be done, it needs to be done.
Mr. Gunasekara, these cabinet reshuffles that are taking place, is it really effective form of governance? You don't even give ample time for ministers to perform their duties.
That is canvassing. Well, the question is this, certain studies have to be carried out before a reshuffling takes place. Somebody has to study and to find out, figure out as to whether the minister has been performing or not. If he has not been performing, fine, because it's a long period. 2 years is a big period.
So you say that certain ministers have not been performing?
I didn't say that.
You just
I said somebody
that.
needs to study.
Someone needs to study, and if someone is not performing, then you need to change their
Somebody
portfolios.
is not performing, yes, certainly.
So you are trying to tell me that because certain ministers are not performing, the president is trying to change.
I didn't say that either.
Then what are you trying to?
You said.
No, I am asking
said
you.
About
you are saying that a
reshuffle.
study needs to be carried out, and if
I said
certain ministers are not performing,
the procedure is very simple.
Right.
You need to carry out a study and figure out yourself as to whether the ministers are performing. If they are not performing, you need to change.
So do you think the time is now to change them?
I have not carried out the study.
So even with your knowledge on politics, you've been a...
It's not correct for me to mention that.
So you can't say whether the government is doing their job or not.
No, I feel it's a trying exercise. It's not an easy exercise. You got to understand, we are facing problems as a result of so many issues. Number one, the budget deficit that we took over, the present government took over, the heavy burden, the debt burden, which is massive. That's a formidable challenge. With all those, then you have two elections. Whenever there is an election, there is lull as far as the country development is concerned. All those things have affected the country. And mind you, the world scenario is also not favorable towards us.
Mr. Gunasekara, the way you are saying, if we are to conduct a study, it will take another 2 years, and then
no, you don't. You don't need all that time. You know, experts don't need all that time. They can go into matters.
Now I would again ask you, are you not an expert in politics?
I am an expert in politics, all right. But I do not want to comment on certain issues.
There you go. That's
not correct.
That's a bit answer, Mr. Gunasekara. Thank you very much for your thoughts. Thank you very much, Nadeem. Let's start off with you. You were waiting to pose a question from the panelists, so I start off with you. Yes, your time starts now.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kesalal Gunasekara, I'd like to start with you, actually. You're starting to sound like an apologist for this current government. Don't you think so?
No. With all my years of experience, I feel the President and the Prime Minister needs to be protected. I have said this before, and I would reiterate once again.
Why do you think that?
Now you said that the President and the Prime Minister needs to be protected.
Yes.
And then when I posed the question to you, whether you would stand independent in Parliament, you said that you would speak against what is wrong.
Of course, that's my right.
So, where is the balance there now?
I have the balance.
You want to protect the Prime Minister and the President.
No.
I understand that.
No, you're on a different track. What I said is very simple.
Yeah.
I said I would fight for what is right, for what is wrong. I would fight against what is wrong, and I would fight for the truth. That's all.
So
that's my duty.
While protecting the interest of the President and the Prime Minister.
I said the Prime Minister and the President has to be protected.
So let's say the Prime Minister itself is wrong.
Pardon?
Let's say the Prime Minister is wrong.
We need to fight him. I mean, he can make mistakes. He's human. Okay. You think he can't make mistakes? He can make mistakes.
Okay.
Mr. Gunasekara, you just now said that the government is on a trying exercise. This is not the Olympics or the Commonwealth Games or anything like that. This is a country. Do you think that the government has a chance to carry out a trying exercise?
No. What I meant was the scenario is it's an exercise.
So there is a trial and error period even for a government.
Pardon?
There is a trial and error period even for a government.
It's not a question of trial and error. You have to understand. It was, when this government took over, it was a formidable challenge. I mentioned.
But they promised various things, Mr. Gunasekara.
No, you promise because at an election you need to promise. That's what you want to do. But you got to understand. You have a scenario. You have a world economy which is definitely not developing now. It's slowing down. So we also caught up in that. In that respect,
Mr. Gunaratna, I want to ask you a question. Now, in fact, I want to follow up from where we left. Now, I asked you about the former president and the current prime minister, and you also agreed with me when I said that this is a new phase, but the same thing is going on. Do you still stand by your word there? Mr. Gunaratna, now, like Shamir mentioned, with cabinet reshuffles coming, there is also a reshuffle in the United National Party, we are told.
Yeah.
Now, once again, from what it looks like and what the politicians and other experts coming on media are saying, is that close confidants of the Prime Minister are going to be given higher positions. Do you think that this is a good, do you agree first of all, and do you think that this is a good thing or a bad thing?
No, whatever this Prime Minister or the head of the United National Party has done for the last 15 years has not brought in results. They have not been able to win elections. So nothing is going to change. This trend of...
But they are in power now.
They are in power. They came into power thanks to the President. And the MOU with the President. Not for anything else.
And the MOU is going to be over in another few months, and they said they were going to
Mr.
extend.
Gunaratna, the UNP has 108 seats in Parliament.
Yeah.
It's the single largest party in Parliament. So how can you say that they're in power thanks to the President?
No, because when you take the other coalition parties which have got into coming with the UNP, there is about another 20 seats which you are calculated into the 102.
But you saw
It still
the
makes
United...
them. Oh well, okay. It's still even then it's still like a very large proportion.
Yeah,
so
but
you can't say.
now the UNP, if you take...
So did those coalition partners
I will answer your question.
hop onto
I'll
the
answer your
elephant,
question.
or did the elephant hop onto the other coalition?
I will answer your question. Now, the UNP was in opposition for the last maybe 15 to 20 years. So when a party has been so long in opposition, when it comes to power, when it's going to come to power, you would expect it to get at least 50% of its seats in Parliament, which it has not been able to do. As a result of that, what the UNP...
But the political landscape changes, as you said, 15 to 20 years. It's a very long time, 2 decades. Political landscapes have changed in shorter time than
the UNP vote base has deteriorated. We have lost a vote base which is about 5 million. It has come down to it had come down to about 2.3 million. That's why we have reduced so many seats in Parliament.
So then there is a need within the UNP to change what is going on.
Definitely.
And the change that is going to happen is right.
It's not right. It's wrong.
How do you say that then?
No, because all people who are close to him are being given positions when there are much senior people.
Like, for example?
For instance, now if you now there is a talk that they're trying to make Mr. Akila Viraj Karyavasan the General Secretary of the party, right? Now you take a person like Mr.
But Mr. Gunaratna, with all due respect, it's just hearsay. If you're mentioning names, you have to be very certain that these names
not
are
hearsay.
mentioned, and you have to take responsibility.
Yeah, I take responsibility. Whatever I say, I take responsibility. The new trend is now they are trying to bring in General Sarath Fonseca as an assistant leader. Now, why are they trying to do that? It is because he wants to bring in Akila Viraj Karyavasan as the General Secretary. So to camouflage that appointment, they are trying to bring in General Sarath Fonseca and make him assistant leader.
Appointing a figure like a very popular figure like Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca as assistant leader, that might just be a political move.
That might just work out. Is
A popular move.
Nadeem is trying to say.
That might work out for the party. It might be a positive direction.
In my reckoning, I don't think he is popular anymore.
Mr. Gunaratna, I
We'll have
want
to take that up with the Field Marshal at some point.
I want to direct your attention once again. Now, initially you said that when Shamir asked you whether he will invite you in 3 months or not, you said that you're hoping that there will be some progress with regard to the coal deal in 3 months.
Definitely.
But Mr.
If
Gunaratna,
Mr. Gunaratna is going to be in Sri Lanka in 3 months, he'll certainly appear on the show. Am I right?
I have no intention of leaving this country.
yes, Mr. Gunaratna.
And that is the very reason. That is the very reason I want to make this a better place.
Mr. Gunaratna, with whatever is going on, if you base your assumption on the fact that the CID is carrying out an investigation at present with regard to the coal deal, we have seen a number of ministers, number of politicians going into the FCID and coming out, going into the bribery commission and coming out, going into the CID and coming out, and nothing has happened. How are you sure and saying that in 3 months you will have some sort of concrete action?
Chaturanga, why I am saying I am sure is because this is the only case, unlike the bond scam. Now, there is a commission which has been appointed to see what has gone wrong or right or wrong, right? But in the coal tender, the Supreme Court has made a determination that the awarding of the tender was against the law. That itself is more than enough.
But Mr. Gunaratna, as you said, with what you've said, the Secretary to the Ministry of Power and the Minister has been powerful enough to get you removed from that position.
That is an administrative decision. That is an administrative decision. But the fact remains that legally they have done something wrong. That has been acknowledged by the Supreme Court. That is there in black and white. And if the CID is going to investigate that, They can't just throw that piece of paper away and say, no, that Supreme Court decision, we are not bound by it. No one is going to, can come and say that they are not bound by it. They are definitely bound by it. There is nothing for them to go and ask the Attorney General for any kind of advice. They can, on that decision itself, they can take action. That is my contention, and that is what I am 100% sure that the CID should be able to bring these people to book.
Mr. Gunasekara, you were talking about battling the system, about, standing up. If you were in Parliament, how you would stand up for what is wrong. Are you a fan of Lee Kuan Yew? Are you a fan of Lee Kuan Yew?
I would say yes.
You would say definitely yes. Have you read his book, The Singapore Story?
Yes.
Have you read that passage
I can tell you so many stories about Singapore as well.
All right, I'll quote from it. My first visit to Sri Lanka was in April 1956 on my way to London. Let's skip forward. I walked around the city of Colombo, impressed by the public buildings, many with stone facings undamaged by the war. Because Mountbatten had based his Southeast Asia command in Kandy, Ceylon had more resources and better infrastructure than Singapore. He goes on to talk about his time with the then Prime Minister SWRD Bandaranaike and then Ms. Sirimavo Bandaranaike, before he says Ceylon was Britain's model Commonwealth country. It had been carefully prepared for independence. After the war, it was a good middle-sized country with fewer than 10 million people. It had a relatively good standard of education, 2 universities of high quality in Colombo and Kandy, a civil service largely of locals, experience in representative government, starting with city council elections in 1930s. As a reminder, we had universal franchise back then. When Ceylon gained independence in 1948, it was a classic model of gradual evolution to independence. Alas, it did not work out, and during my visits over the years, I watched a promising country go to waste. Are we wasting a wasted country right now?
Well, if you take from 1948, where we gained independence, if somebody were to ask me as to whether we have moved forward, my answer would be a very silent situation, because I'll still mention this. I think I should quote this. Long years back, when I was a student in school, my grandmother used to say, after watching so many things happening in this country, that we got independence too early. You know what she said? She said one day, we should have got independence 50 years later. Of course, at that time, I asked Archie, what are you talking? Don't talk rubbish. We have got independent. But now I feel that she was right. Hindsight, she was right.
But Mr. Gunasekara, according to the father of Singapore, we were beautifully set up for independence and then mucked it all up in the succeeding years. He covers a lot of, a long period in Sri Lanka's post-independence history, all the way from 56, from his first visit here, all the way up to the regime of the late President Ranasinghe Premadasa. And throughout that entire thing, when you read Lee Kuan Yew's memoirs, it's very unimpressive. The tone is very, I'm not impressed. Especially even when he talks about airlines, about the setting up of Lanka at the time as a glamour project. So when you see how the country that we are currently aspiring to be like, according to the government at least, when you see how the founder of their country is almost disdainful about how we have tried to emulate them in the past, doesn't it strike a chord?
Well, the question is as to how...
Who do you blame for it? Who do you blame for it? Is it the baby boomer generation?
Well, I blame the entire society, politicians, everybody, because you've got to understand, not only the politicians are to be blamed, the bureaucracy, the professionals, everybody, because everybody has to take the blame.
And the people.
And the people.
Mr. Gunaratna, let's revisit the internal dynamics of the UNP again, and also about your political future. Now, previously you were part of a rebel group that fought the internal structure, right? So, with changes anticipated, what is the past like? Do you see resistance growing within the party?
Oh yes.
And what is your situation? Have you applied
No.
get back into the
No.
UNP?
Until Ranil
What's the pulse
Wickramasinghe
like at the moment?
is the leader of the UNP, I don't intend getting into the UNP. We have sought registration of a political party, and I'm very confident that we'll get the registration from the Elections Commissioner, and we will meet him at the next local government election.
You're forming a new party.
Yeah.
What is the name of the party?
Referring to as we?
Who?
You referred to as we.
When you are a political party, it's we, it's not me.
Can you give us a hint?
You can't expect Mr. Gunratna to just stand alone in the local government polls. Do you, Tarita?
Any key parties, any key members,
No,
and
no,
key
this
figures?
Make sure we are not there.
Mr. Nikon, a question about the country's economy right now. Is it in dire straits at the moment?
Yeah.
What is happening?
I want to just say one word about what Nadeem said about Lee Kuan Yew's reference to Sri Lanka. I think the time that Lee Kuan Yew made this reference to Sri Lanka, his country was just starting. You know, he started long way back after Sri Lanka. He broke away from Malaysia in the early 40s. So therefore it was a very novel situation and experience for him to see what Sri Lanka was. So don't get carried by what Lee Kuan Yew told about Sri Lanka at that time, because the same Lee Kuan Yew, I have listened to him on the last day as the Prime Minister when he was making the National Day address in Singapore. He was ridiculing Sri Lanka like hell. I can repeat what he said in that speech because I was listening to that speech while in Singapore. He said, several years ago I went to attend an international conference in a neighboring country, and the host Prime Minister brought up nice beautiful resolution in that international conference. What was the resolution? To make the Indian Ocean a peace zone. Then he said, that country that brought the resolution is today in pieces. He ridiculed like that. So these are things that he stated at one stage of his political career. So that is nothing, there is nothing sort of
no, but there's always good. There's always good that you can take from a particular individual and his personality, Mr. Tennakoon. The ones that you don't want, you can always discard. The ones you can bring to your life and make it a bit colorful, you have to take it and move forward. I think that is what Nadeem tried to do with bringing in a quote.
Mr. Tennakoon just repeated what I was saying about Lee Kuan Yew.
Yes, Mr. Tennakoon, with regard to the country's economy.
That he was disdainful about Sri Lanka, and he pretty much repeated what I said.
The economy, I think it is not a very sort of a big deal to understand as to where we are today. I think we are dictated by the donor countries or the IMF and the World Bank today. We are in such a dire situation that we can't take decisions of our own.
So you are saying that the IMF is dictating terms to us?
The IMF has very much to do with our economy today as we stand today. Not because the economy itself is bad, the management of the economy is bad. These are two different aspects that people will have to understand very clearly. The economy can be bad, but if you are managing that bad economy in a bad way, it becomes worse. What is happening today is the economy is managed very bad, so bad that the management has to be taught by IMF to us.
Mr. Gunasekara, what are your thoughts on this? The IMF dictating terms to us. You initially said no, the IMF is not dictating terms.
No, the question is this: you got to understand international agencies which support the government or aid the government would always come out, always in the past, come out with various kinds of programs of action. Whether any country has taken it full or taken it halfway or not taken at all.
But when it comes like this, when they say that if the national audit bill is not implemented, the fourth tranche of money will not come through. Is that a way of telling governments what to do?
Good governance need the audit bill.
No, the IMF has very clearly stated that if the national audit bill does not come through,
good governance needs the audit bill.
Good governance needs the audit bill. So you mean to say the nationality bill is not coming haphazardly because of the whim and fancy of the International Monetary Fund?
I don't think it will come haphazardly. They'll have to study this and then finally come out with it.
Mr. Nikon, looking at the international community right now, Sri Lanka got another 2-year extension to implement the co-sponsored resolution on Sri Lanka on accountability issues. 2 years down the line, it's going to be the end of journey for this regime as far as their tenure is concerned. It's going to come to a close in 2.5 years. Why is it that the international community is taking a very soft approach on this government? And why did they take such a hardline position?
Who?
The international community.
Yes, because 2 years is a long time, Shami, for a government to get established and come onto the track. This government doesn't show any signs of bringing the economy into the track. So they have seen it very clearly, and we can see it ourselves, because we don't need an international guidance or international organization to come and point out to us that your economy is being badly managed. We can see it for ourselves. We have a finance minister, we have a government which withdraws more than doing things.
Thank you very much,
price winning one.
His undoings are more than doings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nikon, for your thoughts on the first, second and third and fourth rounds. We're now going for a short commercial break. When we come back, it's a final round. Transparency, good governance and the country's economy. End of the year, where will we stand? All this and more after the short commercial break. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. Let's start off the final round with Mr. Rusiripala Tennakon. Mr. Nikon, right now there are public institutions that are on sale. If you had the money, which institution would you buy?
I don't think I can even imagine.
I know you can't even imagine, but if you had the money, it's a very hypothetical question.
I can't even imagine buying a thing like that. But anyway, most of these institutions are actually, the very fact that they are being sold to somebody, that somebody is buying it, no? If that somebody who is buying it can make it run profitably, why can't the government do it? This is why I very categorically state that it is a question of mismanagement. You see, if somebody is going to buy for the Air Lanka, and they are going to buy that Air Lanka with a huge investment, and that person or organization is going to buy that to make profits
and turn it around.
Yeah, if we can turn it around, why can't the government do it? Or why can't they make it happen here? The whole problem is, their incompetence is showing. This government is not at all competent enough to manage the affairs as a government. They have they have just been thrown into this position by a gale, by shouting slogans like anti-corruption, this good governance. They are mere slogans. With those slogans, they have been thrown into the house. It's by a gale. They had no plans. They had no vision. And their survival is a threat today, because they have a combination of two parties with divergent views, and it is surfacing. So their game is to continue the 4 years by doing anything, by praising that this party praising the other party, this party praising this party. They want to carry on. The country is losing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rusiripala Tennakon. I now move my attention to Mr. Kesarala Gunasekara, former Member of Parliament of the United People's Freedom Alliance. Mr. Gunasekara, this puts the country in a very difficult situation. No plan, no vision. They're just trying to survive the day. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's not correct for me to comment on it. As to whether there is no plan, I don't agree. There are so many plans, but we need to understand that the agitation programs have surfaced in a big manner, and you people are giving a lot of publicity, so naturally more agitations are coming through. When more agitations take place, people tend to think, look here, the government is not performing. And that is exactly what is happening. You have to understand, as I told you before, that the economy is not doing well because of so many factors. The world economy is not performing, and hence we are being affected. We have a serious problem as far as the debt burden is concerned. We have a serious problem as far as the deficit is concerned. These are all things that we have inherited. It's not easy, it's not an easy run at all. It's going to be a difficult exercise. But as to whether you can withstand and have patience to go through is a question.
President's statement yesterday stating that the local government elections would be held this year. How welcoming is his statement? Is this going to put the government's popularity to test?
Of course, it will certainly put the government's popularity to test. But the question is, local government elections, even if they are held or not held, is not going to be the answer. We have to understand that we need to have good politicians coming in for governance. We need to have a good bureaucracy, people with ethics and standards, professionals with ethics and standards. All these things need to come up for good governance to take place, and without those, it's not that it's not that
you
easy.
Said
just because you have an election does not mean that.
I think the solution is for us to have a parliament without ministers.
Mr. Gunasekara, but then you said that good governance takes time.
That's exactly my point.
If we can have parliament without
we
ministers,
need all these things now. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 6 years. It's a long haul. As to whether we are patient enough for that, I doubt it.
On a very light note, before I move on to Mr. Maitri Gunaratna, you said that good politicians need to come into the fray during an election. Are you planning to contest the upcoming polls?
Pardon?
Are you planning to contest the upcoming local government polls, Mr. Gunasekara?
I would prefer to be in the centre.
You would prefer to be in the centre?
With all our experience, we can do so much for this country, and hence I certainly prefer to be in the centre.
When you say the centre, it's the government.
Central government.
Central government. Thank you very much, Mr. Gunasekara. So that means you need to wait for another 2.5 years.
Whether it's 2.5 or 4 or 5 is immaterial.
So you mean to say you won't be contesting the upcoming local
I never said anything like that. I said my preference.
Your preference is to be at the centre. Thank you very much, Mr. Gunasekara.
This is a pleasure.
You sometimes sound really like a very like a politician. You always confuse my mind when you say you want to be at the centre and then you say you want to be.
I say that's my preference. No, you got to understand. I have been in politics since 1978, and I have seen so many things happening. But to me, I always would prefer to be patient.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gunasekara. Patience is indeed a virtue. I now move to Mr. Maitri Gunaratna. Mr. Gunaratna, I don't want to mention your former portfolio, the past portfolio, former chairman of Lanka Coal, but I'm going to mention the new portfolio. The Competent Authority of Lanka Mines, Mineral Sands Limited. Is the future of Sri Lanka as bright as your shirt, Mr. Gunaratna?
It can be made bright depending on who's handling the affairs, because Sri Lanka is a country which has been blessed with natural resources. I of course feel that for the last maybe 40-50 years, it is the politicians who have bungled the whole operation.
Exactly.
It's the politicians who have bungled the whole operation. But this is God's own country. We are very lucky to be in this country. If we can only have some good politicians, honest politicians, right, and that I think the present president is cutting the way by amending this election system, this PR system, which is a bane on the country, which is distracting all good people to come into politics. Now that is what has to be brought into this country as fast as possible. This local government election, there are parties who are trying to somehow get the old system, that's the PR system. Now if that is brought in again, what is going to happen is we are going to see the same rot, the same muck getting back to these places.
Back to square one.
Right? But if you change the system and you bring it to a ward system, you will find better quality politicians coming in. Mr. Gunasekara, would you agree with me? Right? Even if, because presently, if you are going to do politics, you need untold amounts of money to contest. But under the present new system, which was bought by the present president, he has been instrumental in changing the electoral mechanism. If that is introduced by hook or by crook, then you will change the political dimensions of this country. And I am 100% confident, because if we say if you want to contest, you only have a small ward, maybe 2,000 households, where you have to go visit and you have to get their vote. And if you are good, if you are educated, you will be able to get that vote and you can win. Even at electorate level, that will be the same. Otherwise, what is going to happen is the same bunch of people are going to be elected and sent into parliament, and there is going to be no change. If you are expecting a change in government, if you are a change in the system, we have to change the electoral system of this country and bring in the first past the post. It can be a mixed system, but we have to bring in the first past the post system. Otherwise, nothing is going to change.
So we are going to see Attorney at Law Maitri Gunratna contesting the upcoming elections if it is called for.
No, not the local government elections, because I will be running the whole party.
So you want to be at the centre as well, just like Mr.
No, not the centre. I mean, there has to be someone who is going to take control and to mobilize and coordinate the whole thing. But
so where are you going to stand?
I will be the general secretary of the party. So I will have to run the whole operation.
One request from you. I'm going to give you 20 seconds. You can either take it or leave it. What would be your election pitch?
What do you mean, election pitch?
What is your pitch to the public? Why must they vote you in?
No.
Or vote your party in?
We are going to attract educated people who are committed in developing the country. Because as it is, people are sick of the present setup and the present people who are there. So we have, I can say the office bearers of our political party have stood for this kind of thing. And we will prove it at the elections, and maybe we will be afforded many more debates like this. We can prove our steel at that time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gunratna.
Thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you very much for coming on the show, and it's always a pleasure to have interviewed you on the show, as well as Mr. Rusiripala Tennakoon, as well as Mr. Kesarala Gunasekara. I fervently hope, Mr. Gunasekara, in a few years' time, you would really be at the center of politics, the center as far as the administration is concerned. All the very best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nadeem. Thank you very much, Shatrang, and thank you very much, Charita, for joining us this evening. Next week, we are to discuss the controversial National Audit Bill. Stay tuned for that. We would start the show at 9:30 p.m. I assure you that next week, with God's grace, we won't be facing any technical difficulty. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I leave you tonight with a quote, as I always do. Governance is like a game of chess. To win, you have to make a move. Knowing which move to make comes with insight and knowledge. You make the wrong move, it's called checkmate. Take care and good night.